Hey guys, I thought I would go over the questions from your quiz so that you can make sure you understand how to do them so that you're prepared for future assessments. So number one, we have the opposite of 2 squared times negative 4 divided by 3 times 4 minus 3 minus 4. So remember, if you're working with a fraction like this, you work in the numerator, then you work in the denominator, and then you simplify at the very end. So in our numerator, we are squaring 2, and then we're multiplying it by negative 1. That's what that says right there. It's the opposite of 2 squared. Well, 2 squared is 4, and the opposite of 4 is a negative 4 times negative 4, which would be 16. In our denominator, we're going to do our parentheses first. So 4 minus 3 would be 1. And then we do multiplication, so that'd be 3 minus 4. And then that'd be over negative 1, and that simplifies to a negative 16. Number 2, it was the opposite of the square root of 4 plus 2 squared plus 6. So remember, square root is similar to squaring, so we can do that first, which would be 2 plus 2 squared would be 4 plus 6. And then you work left to right with your addition that we have here. So negative 2 plus 4 is 2 plus 6 is equal to 8. But y'all did great on that one. Number 3, we have the opposite of 3 to the 4th power divided by 3 times 3 minus 9. So the opposite of 3 to the 4th power would be a negative 81. 3 to the 4th power is 81, and the opposite of 81 is a negative 81 divided by 3 times 3 minus 9. So we're going to do our division first, which would be negative 81 divided by 3, which is a negative 27 times 3 minus 9. And then we're going to do that multiplication. And we get a negative 81 minus 9. And that would give us a negative 90 once we do that subtraction. For number 4, we had to figure out which column was greater. So in column A, you have the opposite of the square root of 4. Square root of 4 is 2, and the opposite of 2 is negative 2. In column B, we have the opposite of the square root of 25. So the square root of 25 is 5, and the opposite of 5 is negative 5. And negative 5 is less than negative 2, so column A is greater than column B, which would be answer choice A. Number 5, which expression will be negative when simplified? So for A, we have a negative squared, so it's a negative times a negative, which would come out to a positive. For B, we have a negative to the 4th power. So it'd be a negative times a negative times a negative times a negative. And negative times a negative is a positive, times a negative is a negative, times a negative would be a positive. For C, we have 2, which is a positive, times the opposite, which would be a negative, of 3 squared, which would be a positive times a positive. So a positive times a negative is a negative, times a positive is a negative, times a positive is a negative. So there's our answer C, but let me show you that D is wrong. So we have a negative cubed, this would be a negative times a negative times a negative, and then we are multiplying that by another negative cubed. And when we did all of that, that would come out to be a positive as well. For number 6, we need to simplify the expression. We have 4x times 7 minus 5 minus 3x minus 5x. So we have to do our parentheses first. So 7 minus 5 is 2. So we have 4x times 2 minus 3x minus 5x. And we're going to do our multiplication first, and we get 8x minus 3x minus 5x. And then we work left to right, so that'd be 5x minus 5x, which would be 0x. Number 7, we are going to solve the expression. So we have 4 minus 7 times 3x minus 2. Since we can't do anything in those parentheses, that makes us have to distribute, so that would be 4 minus 21x plus 14. And we are going to combine our like terms, and we get negative 21x plus 18, which was answer B. I'm sorry, number 6 was answer D. Number 8, we need to solve this expression. So we have 1/4 times 4x minus 12y plus 16z. So since we can't combine anything in those parentheses, that makes us have to distribute. 1/4 times 4x is 1x. 1/4 times a negative 12y is a negative 3y. And 1/4 times 16z would be 4z, which was answer A. Number 9, we need to evaluate the expression x squared times y when x is negative 1/4 and y is 32. So like I've always told you, when you substitute a number for a variable, make sure that you put parentheses around that number. So a negative 1/4 squared is negative 1/4 times a negative 1/4, which is a positive 1/16. And then 1/16 times 32 comes out to be 2. And number 10, which column has a larger value? So for column A, we have a negative times a positive times a negative times a positive. A negative times a positive is a negative times a negative is a positive times a positive is a positive. For column B, we have a positive times a negative times a positive. So a positive times a negative is a negative times a positive is a negative. So column A is bigger, which was answer A. If you don't have any questions, then wonderful. If you do, please let me know. Thanks, guys.